The most dangerous workplace is the one where the rules changed and nobody will admit it out loud. One year, the company puts inclusion on the wall, in the slide deck, in the onboarding email you were told to read twice. The next year, the department has a new name, the internal page is gone, and the word equity has been swapped for the word merit, like it was a typo the entire time. The manager who put you on the diversity committee last spring now gets a careful look on his face when your name comes up next to it. The coworker who agreed with you in a hallway in March goes silent the moment the same topic reaches a meeting in October. Nobody sends a memo saying the ground moved. You are simply expected to have already known, and to have already stopped saying the things they were praising you for 6 months ago. Here's what that does to you. You stop being judged for what you did. You start being judged for what your actions can be made to represent now, by someone with a motive and a long memory. A training you are required to attend becomes proof of loyalty to an idea leadership has decided to walk away from. An Elay resource group you joined becomes a line on a list somebody is now reading with suspicion. A committee seat becomes evidence that you personally wrote a policy you were only asked to sit near. And when leadership panics, they need a name to attach to the decision. The executive who approved the policy is protected, so they reach for the employee whose name is still on the meeting invite. Let me define the thing this video is actually about, because most people imagine it wrong. A workplace witch hunt is rarely a mob with pitchforks. Most of the time, it is 3 people using the same vague phrase in 3 separate meetings. It is a manager saying multiple people have concerns and refusing to name a single person or a single concern. It is a coworker repeating one sentence you said and leaving out the 5 sentences around it that gave it meaning. It is HR asking questions that sound neutral while already carrying a story they have decided to believe. It is slow, procedural, and polite, and by the time you notice it is happening, it is already several meetings old and you were not in any of them. Before we go further, one honest line. This is workplace survival education, not legal advice. If your situation is serious, the specific facts of your case matter more than any video, and you should speak with an employment attorney or the appropriate agency where you live. Everything here is about how to carry yourself so that if things go wrong, you are the hardest person in the building to sacrifice. The first strategy is to stop treating this as a debate and start treating it as unstable terrain. Employees burn their energy on the wrong question. They ask, do I agree with this or not? That is a question for your kitchen table. The question that keeps you employed is colder. What in this workplace can be used against me, and by whom? At home, you have beliefs. At work, those beliefs become saved messages, screenshots, witness statements, culture concerns, and policy findings. And the terrain itself keeps moving. The manager who encouraged the inclusion language a year ago now flinches when it comes up because the ground moved under him too, and a frightened manager will hand you to the process before he hands over himself. The workplace has never cared whether your politics are correct. It cares whether your record is clean. Learn to feel the moment a normal conversation has turned into a risk, because in a backlash climate, some conversations are building a file on you whether you agree to open one or not. The second strategy is to learn the language that survives legal and HR review and to use it on purpose. Ideological words make you easy to file and dismiss. The moment you sound like a slogan, someone puts you in a category and stops listening. Process words do the opposite. They force the company to answer you on its own terms. If you say, this place is attacking DEI, you have handed them a label. If you say, I want to make sure opportunity, evaluation, and expectations are being applied consistently across the team, you have raised something HR has a much harder time dismissing casually. Watch the word merit especially, because it gets used 2 ways. Sometimes a manager means it, and the standard is written down and applied to everyone the same way. Sometimes it is cover for a decision that was already made for other reasons, and it evaporates the second you ask what the standard actually is. Do not argue about the word. Ask for the criteria underneath it. A real standard can be put in writing. A fake one cannot survive a calm request to see it. The third strategy is to stop giving coworkers political evidence and to be ruthless about it. Your workplace is not your podcast. Your Slack is not your group chat. Your Teams thread is not your dinner table. And your joke stops being a joke the moment a coworker screenshots it and walks it into a meeting you were not invited to. A crack about woke hiring, a sarcastic line about the anti-DEI crowd, an emoji dropped under a controversial post, a one-word answer to a bait question in a public channel. Watch that last one because it is the most common trap in a backlash climate. Someone drops a loaded question into Slack, something about a headline, a firing, a race or gender story, and waits for you to give them one clean sentence. Pay attention to the coworker who always asks where you stand but never once tells you where they stand. That person may not be looking for your opinion. They may be looking for a sentence they can repeat later in a room where you cannot add the context. The fourth strategy is to understand that your digital record is a witness and to treat it that way starting today. Review your own habits before there is any dispute. The goal here is understanding, not cleanup. You want to know what kind of record you build on an ordinary day, so you stop building one that reads badly out of context. And here's the hard warning that has to sit next to that advice. Once there is a complaint, an investigation, a legal hold, or any active HR matter, do not delete anything. Destroying records during a dispute can turn a survivable problem into a far larger one, and it can look like guilt even where there was none. Along the same line, do not copy confidential company files onto your personal devices because you got scared. Protect yourself, but do not create a second problem while trying to solve the first one. Understand also that you cannot control the fact that someone may reread your old history looking for ammunition. Your participation in an event, a committee, a training, or a group can be read back to you a year later as if it were a confession. You cannot stop them from rereading the past. You can control what you add to the record from here. The fifth strategy is the one that decides who survives and who gets narrated. Document events, not feelings. Most employees document emotionally, and it makes them weak the moment it counts. My boss is clearly racist. They hate me because I disagreed with them. Everyone knows what is happening here. None of that is usable. It is a mood with no handles on it. Compare it to this. March 14th, 2:15 in the afternoon, Teams meeting. Manager said my assignment was being reassigned because I had become, in his words, too visible on the diversity project. 2 colleagues were present. I asked whether this affected my performance rating and received no answer in the meeting. That second version is something an investigator can actually hold. So record the date, the time, the room, or the channel, who else was there, the exact words used, what changed afterward, which policy anyone referenced, and whether the same thing has happened to anyone else. HR cannot investigate your emotional weather. It can investigate events. And handle the word retaliation with care because people throw it around and drain it of meaning. A real retaliation concern is rarely just, they were unkind to me after I complained. It usually involves protected activity, awareness by the people who acted, an actual adverse action, suspicious timing, and treatment that does not match how others were handled. Protected activity is a specific set of things, filing or taking part in an EEO complaint, opposing discrimination you reasonably believe is unlawful, answering honestly in an employer investigation, refusing an instruction to discriminate, requesting a disability or religious accommodation. That protection is real, and it still does not shield you from legitimate discipline for legitimate reasons. Knowing exactly where that line sits is part of what keeps your claim credible on the day you have to make one. The sixth strategy is to refuse to become the symbolic villain. During a backlash, people stop being people and get compressed into labels, and the labels do the accusing for them. The committee member gets treated as though she personally authored the company policy she was only asked to help promote. The training facilitator becomes the scapegoat the instant leadership turns direction, as if he invented the curriculum he was handed. The black employee who raises a fair concern gets told to stop making everything political. The white man who files a complaint because he believes a promotion process shut him out gets reduced to the guy who is mad about diversity, and nobody reads his actual claim. Once you become a symbol, your facts stop landing. Because people are no longer arguing with you, they are arguing with the thing they decided you represent. So do not volunteer for every emotionally loaded conversation that drifts past your desk. Do not let a coworker bait you into speaking for your entire race, gender, religion, or politics. Do not drift into the role of unofficial spokesperson for any group. And do not sit there explaining your basic humanity to people who are clearly collecting material instead of listening. The moment they turn you into a symbol, your facts get much harder to hear. Notice the pattern under all 6 of these. The accusation is only half the danger. The other half is timing. It tends to arrive after the company has already renamed the initiative and made a private decision about who it now wants to protect. Loudness does not survive that kind of setup. What survives is being hard to distort. That is the whole game underneath every strategy left in this video. The 7th strategy is to force a vague accusation to name the crime. Witch hunts run on fog. People are uncomfortable. You are not aligned. There are concerns. Your tone has been noticed. You seem resistant. You are pushing an agenda. You are not inclusive. You are too political. None of those can be defended against because none of them contain a fact. So your job is to calmly turn the fog into a specific claim you can answer. Ask what specific policy you are alleged to have violated. Ask what date it happened. Ask what exact statement or action is under review. Ask whether this is a formal investigation or informal feedback. Ask who is conducting it. Ask whether you will have a chance to respond in writing. Ask them to send you the expectations going forward in writing. You are not being difficult. You are being precise. And precision is the one thing a vague accusation cannot survive. Vagueness is where scapegoating hides. Drag the accusation into daylight and make it say something concrete, and a good number of them fall apart on the spot. The 8th strategy is to never panic write your own case file. When people feel accused, they panic, and panic writes terrible emails. They defend their character at length. They attach articles. They quote the company values back at everyone. They accuse 3 other people so they feel less alone. They take one manageable concern and hand the company 10 new ones. Do the opposite. Keep it short and procedural. Something close to this. I understand a concern is being reviewed. I take workplace conduct seriously and I want to respond accurately. So please tell me the specific policy, date, statement, or action at issue. I am willing to cooperate with the process and provide relevant context. That is the entire message. No manifesto, no counterattack, no you people, no calling it fascism, and no calling it woke nonsense. No using I know my rights as a threat. No email sent at 2 in the morning that you will regret by 9. The longer your panic email, the more material you hand them. Restraint is not weakness here. It is the strongest position available in the room. The 9th strategy is to keep your performance record separate from the political storm and to keep it airtight. Being morally right does not save you if your work record is thin, scattered, or undocumented, because a weak record is easy to sacrifice and easy to rewrite. So keep evidence of what you actually deliver. Completed projects, positive feedback in writing, metrics, client praise, deadlines met, problems solved, reviews. Every time your workload grew or your responsibilities expanded. Improvements in revenue, accuracy, retention, compliance, speed, or quality that you can point to on a page. This matters because when political tension rises, companies love to dress up retaliation as ordinary performance management. Watch for the manager who wrote you a strong review in the first quarter and discovers deep concerns about you in the third, in the exact quarter it became convenient to have them. The weak defense is, they targeted me. The strong defense is, here is my record before the conflict, here is my record after. Here is precisely what changed and when. And here is the praise they were putting in writing right up until the moment criticizing me became useful. If your record is scattered, someone else gets to narrate your value for you, and they will not be generous about it. This is the kind of thing I built the Office Politics Survival Guide for. Most people get taught how to do the job. Almost nobody gets taught how to survive the politics around the job. The guide breaks down power, documentation, reputation, HR, and timing, and how to protect yourself before you become the easiest person to blame. If you have not picked it up yet and you want the deeper version, the link is in the description. Back to it. The 10th strategy is to refuse to join the witch hunt, even when it comes from someone you dislike. In an unstable workplace, people survive by feeding other people to it, and most of that feeding is done by coworkers, not by bosses. Coworkers gather soft evidence. They ask bait questions and act neutral while carrying your answers upward. They distance themselves from you the month after you help them. They reinterpret an ordinary old conversation into something sinister. They call routine disagreement harm and call one awkward moment a pattern. Watch the coworker who always lets you speak first in the sensitive conversation. Sometimes that is manners. Sometimes it is someone waiting to see whose name ends up on the record instead of theirs. Do not become one of these people yourself. If you actually saw something, tell the truth about it, specifically and without decoration. If you did not see it, say clearly that you did not see it. If someone pressures you to sign on to their version, insist on writing your own statement in your own words. If someone comes fishing for gossip, give them nothing. A witch hunt recruits volunteers before it produces victims. And the coworker who volunteers to sink someone this quarter is teaching the whole office exactly how it will handle you next quarter. The 11th strategy is to keep 5 different things separate in your head, because treating them as one blurry mass is how people get manipulated. Discomfort is when something feels awkward or tense. Disagreement is when views or values collide. Harassment, under workplace law and company policy, is more than discomfort. It usually involves conduct connected to a protected characteristic or to protected activity, and the exact threshold depends on the facts, the severity, the frequency, and the specific policy being applied. Discrimination is when a protected trait, such as race, sex, religion, or national origin, affects an actual employment decision. And it is worth remembering that DEI as a phrase is not itself defined in the law, while discrimination on those protected traits very much is. Retaliation is punishment for protected activity. A DEI program is not automatically illegal, and it becomes legally risky mainly when an employment decision is driven, even in part, by a protected characteristic. An anti-DEI complaint is not automatically made in bad faith, and an inclusion concern is not automatically legitimate. The weaker your categories, the easier you are to move around the board, because someone can take a moment of ordinary discomfort and sell it to you as harassment, or take real discrimination and talk you into calling it a personality clash. Keep the 5 straight, and you become very hard to spin. The 12th strategy is to build alliances before you ever need them, long before there is any public reason to. Isolated employees are the easiest to frame, because nobody in the room is surprised by the accusation. But be careful what kind of alliance you build. An ideological faction is just a target with more names on it. Build professional credibility instead. Find the people who know your actual work, who have watched your ordinary conduct over months, who can vouch for your competence without being told to, and who sit outside your manager's direct control so their opinion of you cannot be pressured. Understand who folds under weight before you rely on them. Plenty of coworkers will agree with you in private and go missing in public the second agreement costs them anything. So put your trust in the ones whose support survives a little cost. Reputation like that is built in calm times, not manufactured mid-crisis. If the first time people hear your side of anything is after you have already been accused, you are far too late, and you are asking near strangers to defend a person they are meeting through an allegation. The 13th strategy is to build an exit plan before your workplace turns into a courtroom and to hold it in reserve as leverage. Survival does not always mean staying. Sometimes it means leaving on your own terms before the fight damages your name, your health, and the clean record you spent years building. So prepare the pieces now while you are calm. An updated resume, a savings buffer that buys you time and nerve, external references who actually like you, an organized evidence file, a list of recruiters and open doors, internal transfer options if the problem is one team rather than the whole company, a legal consultation on standby if things turn serious, real support for your well-being if the pressure is climbing, and a clean resignation plan so that if you leave in a way that keeps every door behind you usable. Then the warnings. Do not threaten a lawsuit casually. Do not bluff about legal action you have not researched. Do not rage post about your employer online. Do not resign in a burst of emotion you cannot take back. Do not turn your LinkedIn into a crime scene for the whole industry to read. Leverage works only while it stays held in reserve. The best time to build it is before the company teaches you why you needed it. Now here's what not to do fast, because knowing the traps is half of surviving them. Do not turn work channels into your personal political commentary. Do not assume HR is on your side, because HR exists to protect the company, and on a good day, your interests merely happen to line up with that. Do not assume that being morally right makes you safe, because right and safe are two separate games. Do not over-explain yourself in writing, because every extra sentence becomes one more thing to be used. Do not make accusations you cannot support with facts. Do not wield protected language as a weapon, because an exaggerated claim burns your credibility for the day you have a real one. Do not join whisper campaigns against coworkers. Do not delete records during a live dispute, and do not copy confidential files onto personal devices in a panic. Do not secretly record conversations without understanding whether the law and policy where you work even allow it. Do not threaten lawsuits as a performance tactic. And do not confuse applause on social media with protection inside your actual career, because the internet will not cover your rent the week the badge stops working. Here is what all of this is really about, underneath the strategies. You are standing between corporate cowardice and political theater, and neither one is on your side. Executives invent the slogans to look current. Legal rewrites the slogans to limit exposure. HR enforces whichever version is live this quarter. The managers turn around and pretend they always believe the newest one. And you, who never wrote a single slogan, are left trying to remember which version of the truth is the safe one to hold this month. You did not create the policy. You did not approve the language. You were simply in the room when the temperature changed, which makes you the cheapest name to reach for. So your job is not to win the culture war. Your job is to stay employable and hard to distort while it moves through the building. Do not get baited into an ideology, and do not speak in fog when a plain fact would do. Keep your own record so nobody else gets to narrate your value, and refuse to be turned into a symbol for a fight you did not start. Because when the company starts editing history, the only thing that protects you is the part of your story they cannot rewrite.